Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Prasar Bharati. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. After Trump orders additional tariffs on India, PM Modi says ready to pay heavy price but won't compromise on farmers' interests. New Delhi issues statement after US's plans additional tariff on India, calls it unfair, unjustified and unreasonable. A potential summit plan for Putin-Trump meet soon, following meeting of US envoy Witkoff with Russian president in Moscow. Thailand and Cambodia agreed to extend truce deal reached last week after a fierce 5-day military engagement between the two Southeast Asian nations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday reiterated India's stance of never compromising the interests of its farmers, even if it means facing economic consequences. PM Modi stressed that government has recognized farmers' strength as the foundation of the nation's progress.
हमारे लिए अपने किसानों का हित सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता है। भारत अपने किसानों के, पशुपालकों के और मछुआरे भाई बहनों के हितों के साथ कभी भी समझौता नहीं करेगा। मैं जानता हूं व्यक्तिगत रूप से मुझे बहुत बड़ी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी, लेकिन मैं इसके लिए तैयार हूं। मेरे देश के किसानों के लिए, मेरे देश के मछुआरों के लिए, मेरे देश के पशुपालकों के लिए आज भारत तैयार है।
A firm and direct message from Prime Minister Narendra Modi to those trying to pressure India. Reaffirming his unwavering commitment to national interests, Prime Minister Modi made this declaration during an event dedicated to a man who led India's Green Revolution and made the nation self-reliant in food production.
प्रोफेसर M.S. स्वामीनाथन मां भारती के सपूत थे। उन्होंने विज्ञान को जन सेवा का माध्यम बनाया। उन्होंने वो चेतना जागृत की जो आने वाली कई सदियों तक भारत की नीतियों और प्राथमिकताओं को दिशा देती रहेगी।
Inaugurating the M.S. Swaminathan Centenary International Conference, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also released a commemorative coin and a postage stamp to mark the occasion. The theme of the conference was Evergreen Revolution, the Pathways for Biohappiness.
आज दुनिया भर में बायोडायवर्सिटी को लेकर चर्चा होती है। इसे सुरक्षित रखने के लिए सरकारें अनेक कदम उठा रही हैं, लेकिन डॉक्टर स्वामीनाथन ने एक कदम आगे बढ़ते हुए बायो हैप्पीनेस का आइडिया दिया। आज हम यहां इसी आइडिया को सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं।
Honoring the legacy of Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, the M.S. Swaminathan Research Foundation and the World Academy of Sciences have instituted the M.S. Swaminathan Award for Food Security and Peace. Prime Minister Narendra Modi presented the inaugural award to Professor Adrenal of Nigeria and called upon scientists to ensure nutrition security for all.
डॉक्टर स्वामीनाथन से प्रेरणा लेते हुए अब देश के वैज्ञानिकों के पास एक बार फिर इतिहास रचने का मौका है। पिछली पीढ़ी के वैज्ञानिकों ने फूड सिक्योरिटी सुनिश्चित की। अब न्यूट्रिशनल सिक्योरिटी पर फोकस करने की आवश्यकता है।
Prime Minister also urged greater integration of modern technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning into agriculture. Prime Minister Modi emphasized India's rich legacy of traditional farming knowledge and advocated for merging it with modern science to create a holistic agricultural ecosystem. Prime Minister Modi also urged young scientists and entrepreneurs to innovate for the welfare of farmers and help India lead in green production. Bureau Report, DD India.
India has reiterated its response against the United States' additional 25% tariff imposition, calling the actions unfair, unjustified and unreasonable. India fired back at Donald Trump's additional tariff move, saying that New Delhi has already made clear its stance on imports from Russia. In a statement, India's External Affairs Ministry said that the US has in recent days targeted India's oil imports from Russia. The statement added that India has made clear its position on the issues, including the fact that India imports are based on market factors and done with the overall objective of ensuring the energy security of 1.4 billion people of India. It is therefore extremely unfortunate that the US should choose to impose additional tariffs on India for actions that several other countries are also taking in their own national interest. India reiterated that these actions are unfair, unjustified and unreasonable. The statement added that India will take all actions necessary to protect its national interests. The Global Trade Research Institute, GTRI, has criticized United States' decision to impose an additional 25% tariff on Indian imports, calling it hypocritical, and highlighted Washington's selective approach towards its allies and China when it comes to their trade relations with Moscow. The GTRI in its statement stated that the US had overlooked Russia's trade with the European Union and China, noting selective enforcement on India, exposing Washington's hypocrisy. According to the data given by GTRI, China purchased US dollars 62.6 billion of Russian oil in 2024, surpassing India's US dollars 52.7 billion, yet Beijing faces no punitive tariffs. It also noted that the US has turned a blind eye to the EU's US dollar 39.1 billion imports from Russia in 2024, including US dollars 25.2 billion in oil, while the US itself purchased US dollars 3.3 billion in strategic materials from Russia. It stated that this selective targeting not only threatens India's US dollar 86.5 billion in annual exports to the US, but also raises questions about the credibility of US trade policy, as the move is expected to potentially reduce Indian exports to the US by 40% to 50%. In a major sign of growing global influence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Brazilian President Lula da Silva plans to call him on Thursday to discuss the high tariffs being imposed by US on many countries of the global south, including India and Brazil. President Lula is also seeking more business and trade with India. DD India correspondent Shobhan Saxena reports from Sao Paulo.
Even as Brazil faces 50% tariff on its exports to the US, President Lula da Silva of Brazil is refusing to call US President Donald Trump to discuss the issue. Instead, the Brazilian leader has said he is looking forward to enhancing trade relations with countries like India. On Wednesday, in an important announcement, President Lula said he would call Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India to discuss the tariff issue and also to develop a common strategy to tackle the pressure coming from Washington. President Lula's call with PM Modi is expected to be followed by discussions with other members of the BRICS group as Brazil tries to buffer the impact of rising US protectionism. The Brazilian leader enjoys a great personal chemistry with the Indian Prime Minister, who has visited Brazil twice in recent times, for the G20 summit in November 2024 and for the BRICS meeting in July this year. Brazil currently holds the BRICS presidency. It will be India's turn to host the summit in 2026. On Wednesday, in an interview with the news agency, President Lula said he saw no room for direct talks with President Trump, which he believes would turn into a humiliation for him. He also said that the President of the United States trying to dictate rules for a sovereign country like Brazil is unacceptable to him. On the other hand, President Lula is quite optimistic about close relations with India. During PM Modi's state visit to Brasilia on July 8 this year, President Lula had said his country aims to triple trade flows with India from $12 billion last year. Now all eyes of the world are on the Indian Prime Minister as he gets an important call from a strategic partner.
Just days after the EU and US announced what appeared to be a breakthrough trade deal, confusion still clouds the European response. For more on how this is playing out across the continent, we are joined by DW correspondent Warda Imran in Berlin. Hi Warda, let's start with Germany. How's it looking there?
Thanks for having me. The situation here in Europe remains tense and somewhat unclear. Despite the initial agreement and the handshake between Donald Trump and EU Commission's Ursula von der Leyen, there is still no formal, legally binding agreement in place. And this adds some anxiety among businesses here. In fact, EU exporters are still facing the 27% tariff rate. It was meant to go down to 15%, that was the agreement, and it was meant to start from August 1st, but there's no change there yet. German cars are still being tariffed at the higher rate. And just a day ago, Donald Trump threatened more tariffs on the EU if it did not comply with the investment promise of the deal. So while the trade deal between the two calmed initial fears of a potential trade war, this new phase comes with uncertainty on what the agreement actually is and how it's going to be implemented moving forward.
Also, there's energy purchasing agreement. How the energy companies in the EU reacting to that, Warda?
Yes, exactly. These two parts, the billions worth of investment in the US and the billions worth of energy that the EU promised to import, both are big, fat, and somewhat unrealistic promises. And here's why. The US may not even be able to produce and export that much energy overnight. That's what CEO of Germany's largest energy company, RWE, said. The CEO also stressed that harsh market interventions will ultimately result in more expensive energy for European consumers and companies. The promise that the European Union made means tripling current energy exports, and that would require a lot of moving parts. So there's still a lot of uncertainty, and not everyone is happy with how the EU bowed down.
All right, we leave it there. Thank you so much. And Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov said on Thursday that Russian President Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump will meet in the coming days, with the two sides already having agreed the venue in principle. The announcement came a day after Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff held talks with Putin. Ushakov also said a summit venue had been agreed but would be announced later. He said Witkoff had on Wednesday raised the possibility of a three-way meeting of Trump, Putin and Zelensky, but the Russian side had left this proposal completely without comment, adding that Russia is focused on preparing for a bilateral meeting with Trump.
Speaking about the Ukrainian matters at the suggestion of the American side, an agreement was essentially reached to hold a bilateral meeting at the highest level in the coming days. That is, a meeting between President Vladimir Putin and President Donald Trump. We are now beginning with our American colleagues the concrete preparations together of the aspects of this meeting as well as its location. I will note, by the way, the location has been agreed in principle. We will inform about it sometime later.
Earlier, President Donald Trump said the United States had held good talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, adding that there was a good chance that he would hold a meeting soon with the Russian leader very soon. US envoy Steve Witkoff held talks with Putin earlier on Wednesday, which the Kremlin described as useful and constructive.
Putin and Zelensky agreed to a summit yet? And where and when would that be?
Well, there's a very good prospect that they will. And we haven't determined where, but we had some very good talks with President Putin today. And there's a very good chance that we could be ending the end of that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke to Germany's Friedrich Merz on Thursday to discuss developments after US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff met Russian President. Both leaders hailed the mediation efforts of US President Donald Trump and reiterated that they would continue exchanging closely with European partners and the United States. Meanwhile, Zelensky informed that top security advisors of Ukraine, Europe and the US will hold an online meeting on Thursday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will convene his security cabinet on Thursday at his office in Jerusalem, according to the Prime Minister's office. During the meeting, the cabinet is expected to approve fresh plans for the continuation of the conflict in Gaza, full military occupation of the Strip, and will instruct the military to meet all the goals. Meanwhile, the Egyptian Red Crescent Society said on Wednesday that nearly 1,008 trucks have entered Gaza through Rafah border crossing in the past 2 weeks. It further added that so far, 800 out of the nearly 1,000 trucks that crossed the border arrived at destination in Gaza. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Britain has begun detaining migrants under a new return deal with France aimed at curbing small boat crossings. Over 270 people have been rescued from Dharali following the devastating cloudburst. And India celebrates 11th National Handloom Day.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Thailand and Cambodia agreed upon extending an ongoing ceasefire reached between them last week after a fierce military engagement. The ceasefire had been brokered in the last week of July after 5-day-long violent clashes between both sides. The latest development came on Thursday after the Thai Deputy Defence Minister and Cambodian Defence Minister signed a joint statement where both sides agreed to halt all movement along the border. They also agreed to have ASEAN observers to ensure ceasefire holds. The statement also made provision for another meeting within a month. Both sides have also agreed to avoid misinformation to ensure de-escalation of tensions.
In this period, Cambodia reaffirmed.
In this period, Cambodia reaffirms its unwavering commitment to fully and faithfully implementing the common understanding reached during the special meeting of 28th July 2025, particularly the ceasefire agreement and the establishment of the ASEAN Observer Team, or the AOT, led by Malaysia, to verify and ensure the effective implementation.
In the end, Thailand and Cambodia are neighboring countries that share the same borderlines and cannot run away from each other. We are both members of the ASEAN family. If both countries can resolve the various issues in a timely manner, it would bring peace to the border areas, and the people of both nations will be able to get back to living in peace again.
Both countries have been witnessing one of the deadliest clashes last month, forcing 300,000 people on both sides to flee for safety. The latest clashes claimed 43 lives after tensions flared on borders over disputed temples claimed by both sides. And Britain has begun detaining migrants under a new return deal with France aimed at curbing small boat crossings. The one-in, one-out pilot scheme agreed last month allows Britain to return undocumented arrivals to France while accepting an equal number of legitimate asylum seekers with family ties in the UK. So far in 2025, over 25,000 people have crossed the channel in small boats. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has vowed to smash the gangs of people smugglers and bring down the rising numbers.
Has now begun, and the first migrants who arrived on small boat are now in detention. That is the first step to removing them to France, because no one should be making this journey in the first place, and that's why this is now starting the process to return people and to undermine this vile trade in people.
The wildfire in France continues raging, burning down swathes of lands on its way as more than 2,500 firefighters are struggling to control the blaze. One person has been reported dead in a village 30 kilometers away from the city of Papenyan. Approximately 17,000 hectares, 37,066 acres and 25 houses have been burned down by a raging blaze that has spread over to an area larger than Paris, as this has been recorded to be one of the biggest wildfire recorded so far. The region has always been at higher risk of wildfires due to high temperatures and dry summers. French Prime Minister François Bayrou reached the site and met with the victims of the fire.
The teams that were there had never experienced a fire spreading so quickly, consuming the scrubland, the forest, thousands of hectares. And so the aerial resources are constantly available. At the moment, there are currently around 10 planes and helicopters in the air fighting this fire.
Fueled by dry and windy conditions, another wildfire, Gifford fire, has been raging in near Santa Maria, California, United States. The fire has devoured more than 83,000 acres, as reported on Wednesday. Located within Los Padres National Forest, the fire has engulfed parts of Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo counties. More than 1,000 firefighters have been reported working to bring the fire under control. Another wildfire, Dragon Bravo fire, has been blazing in Arizona since last month and has consumed over 130,520 acres, according to the U.S. Forest Service. No casualty has been reported so far. Chief Minister of India's northern state of Uttarakhand, Pushkar Singh Dhami, has been continuously monitoring the rescue operation in Dharali. CM Dhami met with National Disaster Response Force, State Disaster Response Force and administrative officials in Uttarkashi on Thursday morning and reviewed the progress. Dhami also instructed to make the heli rescue operation started in the affected areas from this morning more effective. Dhami also met injured who are being given treatment at hospital. CM Dhami has ordered to monitor the supply of drinking water and food grains along with the early restoration of roads, communication and electricity. He also appreciated the dedication of all the rescue teams. Earlier, CM Pushkar Singh Dhami also held a meeting with the district magistrates of the state and instructed them to shift the people living on the banks of rivers and drains to other places. Over 270 people have been rescued from Dharali following the devastating cloudburst that triggered massive flash floods and landslides in the area. The rescue and relief operations in the affected areas are in full swing. That is being carried out with the help of Army, NDRF, ITBP, SDRF, Uttarakhand Police and local administration. The work of opening closed roads is also going on continuously and efforts are on to normalize life.
DRF, they are present on ground zero and they are conducting search and rescue operation. Apart from this, there is an important action of evacuation of the people who have been stranded on the Gangotri axis. They are being evacuated in joint operation with other agencies, and the special equipments, heavy machinery, and cadaver dogs are being employed there to ensure that the operation gets successful. 50 people they are missing, they are the locals, and some laborers also who were engaged there, they are missing. Apart from this, in the Harshil camp of the army, which also bore the impact of this flash flood, about 8 army men are missing.
The Indian Air Force has also initiated a joint rescue and relief operation as flash flood in Uttarkashi's Harshil has left the region isolated. Air Force stations in northern state of Uttar Pradesh's Agra and Bareilly were activated overnight to load relief and rescue material and to coordinate with Indian Army personnel for deployment in the rescue missions. Meanwhile, the India Meteorological Department has forecast heavy rainfall to continue over Uttarakhand. Nation celebrates 11th edition of National Handloom Day in New Delhi, where Union Minister of Textiles Giriraj Singh inaugurated the India International Expo for B2B platform. The exhibition showcases products of over 100 weavers from across the country. Here's more.
The 11th edition of National Handloom Day is being organized by the Government of India and is all set to be a spectacular global event. One of the key exhibitions, the India International Handwoven Expo, was inaugurated by Union Minister of Textiles Giriraj Singh in New Delhi's Bharat Mandapam on Thursday. The minister took a tour of the exhibition where more than 100 weavers are exhibiting the products. The event is also witnessing the participation of foreign delegates from all across the globe. Speaking at the event, Anastasia, Russian delegate, spoke about India's handloom and how Russia is looking forward to expanding trade with India in the textile sector.
This is amazing. So many exporters, so many beautiful things, so many beautiful colors and designs. So I'm very pleased to be here, and thank you for organizers, and thank you for India to such a good hospitality and welcome. I work for Embassy of India in Moscow, and I brought Russian delegation here, and we are going to extend trade relations between Russia and India.
Bollywood actress and MP from Himachal Pradesh, Kangana Ranaut, also hailed the initiative and said that this has been made possible only under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
So this particular event has been started by Bharatiya Janata Party और इनकी 11th ये anniversary है, and जैसे एक overall upliftment of economy, of people, or especially those who have been wronged, who've been left behind, who've been ignored, neglected, तो उसका जो उद्धार करने के लिए है ना, जो प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी कहते हैं, जिनको कोई नहीं पूछता उनको मैं पूजता हूँ.
Indian handlooms are celebrated across the globe for their rich textures, earthy colors, and intricate craftsmanship, where every weave tells a story that holds a special place in homes and hearts around the world. Deepika Mehto's report for DD India.
That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.